and the story of How Much Land Does a Man Need? This story was written by Leo Tolstoy. So, in a nutshell, let's discuss what happens in How Much Land Does a Man Need? The story tells us the story of a peasant. A peasant means a farmer named Pahom. He boasts or he thinks or he claims that if he had enough land, he wouldn't fear the devil. After a series of moves, he keeps moving from one land to another land. He eventually knows that no matter how much land he has, he'll never be truly happy. The story begins with Pahom overhearing a debate between his wife and his sister. His sister is used to living in the towns or in the city, but Pahom and his wife are living in the country. Alright. The debate between the two sisters were about which lifestyle is better, whether living in the city is better or living in the country. Pahom, after overhearing them, he states that if he had enough land, he wouldn't fear the devil. The problem here is that the devil was in the kitchen and they didn't know, and the devil overhears this decision or this claim and decides to test Pahom. After that, an opportunity for Pahom to acquire more land arises. When a landowner, a lady, decides to sell her own land. He buys some, but quickly he falls out of favor with his neighbors, necessitating a move. After acquiring more and more land, he becomes less favorable with his neighbors, and his neighbors start to dislike him more and more. Because once he becomes more rich or richer, and after owning more land, he starts to treat his own neighbors in an impolite manner, and he starts to impose fines on them, and he doesn't like to his land to be trespassed, and he even sued one of his neighbors called Simon. Okay, let's continue. In his quest to attain more and more land, Pahom in the end visits the Bashkirs. The Bashkirs is a tribe, or it's a town nearby, whose chief agrees to sell him as much land as he can walk around in one day. Of course, Pahom he likes this tempting offer. However, this tempting offer came with one caveat or one condition. That is, Pahom must return to the exact point he started from, or the sale is off and he will forfeit his own money. In the end, Pahom dies in this attempt. So let's take a look at the characters of this story. Here we have three main characters: Pahom, his wife, and her sister. The elder sister is married to a tradesman in town, and she comes to visit her younger sister in the country, who is the wife of Pahom. The elder sister is sneering about the country life. She ridiculing the country life, saying that it's inelegant and it's coarse. The younger sister disagrees and says that in the town, the devil is around to tempt husbands. So life in the country is safer and it's away from the devil's reach. The devil, however, as I said, was listening to the women's conversation, and hearing that Pahom and his wife think that they are outside of temptation and wouldn't fear the devil himself if they had enough land, he resolves, or he takes it upon himself. The devil decides to put this to the test. He sows discord. It means he instills hatred among the peasants of the community or the commune, so that they cannot agree on a subject or a matter. Later, he appears in the form of a peasant to Pahom, telling him about a cheap land available elsewhere. And we know that Pahom, he has a weakness toward owning and buying land. He has a certain keenness to buy more and more land. At the end of the story, he appears to Pahom again in the form of the chief of the Bashkirs, and laughs as Pahom dies, killed by his own greed. So let's tell the story and see how the events develop. So, at the beginning of the story, the older sister comes from town to visit her younger sister, the wife of Pahom, in the country, who's living in the country. They debate over whether country or city life is better. Pahom's wife says that there is no chance of husbands being tempted by the devil. To which Pahom agrees, says, yes, I agree with you. He says that if only he had enough money, he had enough land, he wouldn't fear the devil. The devil who is in the kitchen hears this and decides to teach Pahom a lesson. Soon, a local landowner, a lady, decides to sell her own land, and a group of peasants, including Pahom, scrape together money. They bring or collect money together to buy it from her in individual pieces, separately. At first, Pahom is delighted with his newly acquired land, but as he gains more success, he becomes increasingly disgruntled with other peasants wandering into his own land. Now, once he starts to own more and more land, he starts to dislike the fact that other peasants, his own neighbors, wander or they enter his own land. Eventually, he even tries to pursue a suit to charge someone or to complain to the police. He tries to pursue a suit against one of his neighbors called Simon. Simon is finally acquitted. The judge says that there's no evidence against Simon, but after that, Pahom is now resented in the commune or community he's living in. Because people now think that Pahom is very snappy, and Pahom starting to make enemies. To escape from all of this, Pahom moves to another commune with his family. He moves to another place, hearing that land was better there now. Now he's much wealthier, but he's become corrupted by his own greed. When he hears that another landowner is in financial difficulty, he begins arrangements to buy that land from him far too cheaply. All he cares about, all Pahom cares about, is buying new land with a cheaper or with a cheap price. That's all he cares about, and he cannot get enough of this. Even if he has so many lands, he would crave for more and more. However, at this point, a stranger comes to him and tells him that the Bakshirs in a neighboring country, that's a tribe, are selling their excellent land at extremely cheaper price. So, Pahom decides to visit the Bakshirs and bring them some gifts. The Bakshir leaders are charmed by Pahom's gifts to them, and they tell him that they will sell him however much land he wants for 1,000 rubles. This is the currency of their community. Pahom is very skeptical of this unconventional offer. He doesn't know where's the catch. He doesn't know the catch. Why would someone agree to buy how much land or however land he wants with such a cheap price? But the Bakshirs assure him that the deal is sound. However much land he can walk around in one day will be his. This is their condition, one condition. He must start from the sunrise and walk around how much land he wants and return to the starting point by sunset. So if he decides to walk around 20 miles, he must return to his starting point by sunset. If he doesn't make it back by sunset or sundown, however, the land and money will be forfeited. He will lose his land and he will not get he will lose his money and he will not get the land he's promised. So Bahim, driven by his greed, believes that he can walk 35 miles in a day. He decides he will make a circuit of this area and then can sell or rent some of the land to others and make a profit. Eventually, Bahum dies out of exhaustion. He starts to walk from sunrise, and he is not able to continue walking and dies out of exhaustion. In the end, it's shown that all the land a man needs is just the enough area or the enough space to bury him in it. Before Bahum dies, the chief of Bakshirs appears to him, and we know that the chief of Bakshir is actually the devil disguised in the form of the chief of Bakshirs. And he tells him that was a lesson, and tells him that he's failed the lesson, and he fell tempted to the devil's own chickenries or trickery. So let's now take a look at the themes. The main theme of this story is, of course, greed. At the beginning of the story, Bahum, the protagonist, the main character, believes that he would not fear the devil if only he had enough land for himself. He wonders why the wealthy old lady who owns land nearby continues to find him. He's part of a group of peasants and supports their own common goals. They have started something which is called a commune. A commune is like a community where a group of peasants, they help each other and support each other in their daily activities and daily works and daily work. However, he has failed to contend with the power of the devil. He failed the lesson. As the time goes, Bahum is increasingly dissatisfied with what he has. He doesn't like, he's not satisfied with what he owns, the land, the plot, or the land plots that he has. And he's more and more willing to step over other people to get better and more land for himself. That's all he cares about. He takes advantage of others in financial difficulty. He tries to punish Simon, a neighbor, and a landowner who has actually done nothing wrong, and he finds those who were once his friends. He desires to become a freeholder, no longer content with renting, and when he's told by a passing stranger that cheap land is to be had elsewhere, his greed prevents him from questioning this. He's blinded by his greed. All he sees is the opportunity, as a gold opportunity, that there is somewhere else, that there is land to be sold at a cheaper price. Greed has blinded him from realizing that this stranger is the devil tempting him. The arcane request of the Bakshirs that Bahum not take more land than he can walk around in one day is not enough to make him see clearly through his greed. Even the condition the Bakshirs requested or stipulated is a very clear clue or sign that there's something fishy or there's something wrong with this deal. But he's blinded. He was still blinded by his greed. So instead, so corrupted by the desire for more than he needs, he overestimates how far a circuit he can walk. Ultimately, his greed kills him. As his servant notes, all the land he really needs was enough for his grave. This is a moral tale, but the thread of Pahom's greed permeates it. It's really covered front and back with the greed of Pahom, growing and growing. The idea is that a man who thinks that he need not fear the devil is the most in danger of being tempted by him, and that actually every one of us is susceptible or subject to the corrupting force of greed. Thank you, class. Have a nice day.